We know that going wide receiver early is all the rage right now, but you know what? That means that we are getting one heck of a value on running backs at their current ADP. But then the question becomes, which running backs are we drafting at their ADP and who becomes the best value? Let's go ahead and run through the first 3 rounds and decide if we're going to smash or pass. Yo, Headliner Nation, today we're going to be diving into the ADP for every running back currently inside the first 3 rounds. And we need to try and figure out who are we going to be drafting based on where their current value lies. And in this video, we're going to be talking about redraft ADP and best ball ADP together at the same time. So regardless of what format you play in, you're going to get all the knowledge that you need. And speaking of the knowledge that you need, our 2024 Fantasy Football Draft Guide is currently available for you to purchase and start using to prepare for all of your drafts. All you need to do is go to the link in the description below, click on it, head on over to our website, and you can order yours right now for $21.99, and you'll get instant access. Rankings, cheat sheets, breakouts, busts, sleepers, player profiles, exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else is all located right in this easy to use package that is updated consistently up until week 1 of the regular season. But now we're heading on over to the first round ADP, and I'll tell you what, 2024 is unlike anything that I've ever seen. The fewest running backs being drafted inside the first round ADP. The fewest running backs I've seen drafted inside the first 3 rounds based on ADP. And this year, there's actually more running backs going in the first round in best ball than there are in redraft. And in redraft leagues, I will gladly smash all 3 of the first round running backs at their current ADP. Christian McCaffrey deserves to be number 1 overall. Breece Hall is my RB2, Bijan Robinson is my RB3. Now in best ball, I'm not crazy for having a pass next to Bijan's name. The only reason is because I've got Breece Hall locked in as my RB2, and I will take Breece Hall over Bijan every single time. If it were flip-flop and Bijan was going at number 3, he would absolutely be listed as a smash here. And then it is interesting that Jahmyr Gibbs has made his way into the first round in best ball leagues. I love Jahmyr Gibbs this season, and I love David Montgomery as well. I think both of these guys are absolutely going to ball out this season. Jahmyr Gibbs giving you a little bit more of a ceiling. David Montgomery giving you a little bit more of a floor. The second round is where we see the biggest discrepancy in running back ADP right now. Even though there's 1 more running back going in the first round of best ball, there's 2 more running backs going in the second round of redraft. You can also see that there's a pretty decent gap from the start of the second till when running backs are taken. For instance, Jonathan Taylor is the first running back taken in the second round. And either redraft or best ball, I'm absolutely going to smash. I think he's in for a huge year as long as he stays healthy and as long as Anthony Richardson stays healthy. That Indianapolis Colts offense could be really, really good. But in redraft leagues, Jonathan Taylor is being taken right after the first round ends, whereas he's not being taken until a few picks later in the second round in best ball leagues. For redraft leagues, this is where Jahmyr Gibbs comes in right after Jonathan Taylor. And I don't fault anybody for drafting Taylor over Jahmyr Gibbs. In best ball, Jahmyr Gibbs probably does have a little bit more upside, and that's why he's being taken before him, where JT is probably a little bit safer, thus a little bit better for your redraft leagues. But I'm still going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs right there with no issue in redraft. Now, before you rip my head off in the comments about passing on Saquon Barkley, I really hope you're listening to this and you just don't have it paused looking at the names on the screen. If we see any comments out there giving me a hard time about passing on Saquon Barkley, make sure we respectfully reply to them and just say, hey, you should definitely listen to the entire video. Because I'm not passing on Saquon Barkley because I don't like him. I have voiced my concerns about Barkley and potentially missing out on some of those rushing touchdowns, but he's going to be a super safe running back this year. I like Saquon Barkley in his new environment and with his new team. There's just some guys that I'm willing to draft over Saquon Barkley right now. Kyren Williams is coming right behind him in redraft ADP. I would take Kyren Williams over Saquon Barkley. I'm just a little bit more invested in that potential role for Kyren Williams, seeing potentially more goal line touches as well, and not losing out on those rushing touches to Jalen Hurts. Now, I'll also say that I'll take Derrick Henry over Saquon Barkley as well. Derrick Henry's name is not going to come into play just yet. We'll talk about him soon. But it's the same reason I'm investing a little bit more into Kyren Williams. Derrick Henry and Kyren Williams could be absolute monsters at the goal line this season, and the touchdowns for them could just end up being a little bit more periodic than what we see from Saquon Barkley. But it is interesting to note that Kyren Williams is in the second round for redraft leagues, but he's not in the second round for best ball leagues. Kyren Williams is still going to have some of the most upside for any running back this season based on his volume. They drafted Blake Corum to be a compliment to him. He's not taking a ton of touches away. Sean McVay is a one running back kind of guy, and he's definitely going to give them volume within the red zone. Kyren Williams is going to have a ton of touches and a ton of touchdown potential this season. He should be in the second round of best ball leagues as well. And lastly, in the second round, Devon Achane, or Achane, or however you want to pronounce it, because I've heard it pronounced 3 different ways, including Achane, which he told reporters on video earlier this season that that's what his last name was. So whatever at this point. But for Devon Achane, I can't buy into it. I just can't. Raheem Mostert is not going anywhere. They spent a pick on Jalen Wright. They're going to have a ton of volume going to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They've also added Odell Beckham Jr. and Jonnu Smith. I can't. And Devon Achane last season, all of the concerns about his injuries showed up last year. I, for the love of everything, cannot devote myself to spending a second round pick on Devon Achane. It is way too risky for me, and I am passing on him in every single format at that ADP. Now, the names in the third round also different. And also, we're not seeing a lot of action in the third round either. People are investing 2 picks in the first 3 rounds on wide receivers on a very consistent basis. I did this same video the other day for wide receivers, and there was so many names to talk about. This video is going to be like half the time because there's half the names. Kyren Williams in the third round ADP for best ball. Makes sense. He's in the second for redraft. We already discussed him. Derrick Henry comes into play here in the third round. And I'm going to get a lot of comments about how people do not see Derrick Henry being drafted in the third round. I don't know what to tell you. He is. The numbers that I'm seeing on all these websites have him going in the third round right now. When I did a video a couple of weeks ago and talked about Derrick Henry's ADP, he was listed in the same area. It hasn't changed. And there were a ton of comments on that video. Kyle, every mock draft I do, he's going late first, early second. That's great. I'm glad to see that you're seeing that in your mock drafts. It's just not happening on a consistent basis, though. These are what the numbers are telling us. On redraft platforms, right now, he is going 26 overall. On best ball platforms, well, not all platforms, just Underdog, Derrick Henry is going at 29th overall. Derrick Henry is a third round pick right now. Will that change when we get into redraft season? Quite possibly. But if people aren't following the ADP and they're drafting them early, we just have to know that in advance. Now, the 2 names popping up in redraft that are not popping up in best ball are Travis Etienne and Isaiah Pacheco. Now, I am all over Travis Etienne still. I absolutely love him. He does work in the passing game and on the ground. He's utilized at the goal line. We are going to see a little bit of a reduction in terms of his touches this year, but we've seen some really high efficiency from him in previous seasons. Last year, it wasn't as much as we would have liked, but hopefully adding Brian Thomas Jr. and making some changes on offense with the wide receivers will give us a little bit of extra oomph in the backfield and allow him some more open space to operate. Even if he loses a little bit of volume, he should still see enough upside to warrant a third round pick. And then Isaiah Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco, I'm going to pass on here. And the only reason that I'm saying that is because by the time Isaiah Pacheco's name is coming up on my board, typically I've already invested in 2 running backs. I'm not interested in investing on him in the third round because I would rather draft a guy a few rounds later like David Montgomery, who could end up offering pretty similar production and at least just as safe as a floor, even if Isaiah Pacheco does have a little bit more upside. There's too big of a difference in the ADP ADP for me to spend this high of a pick on Pacheco when I feel like I could get some like floor later on in the draft, even if there's not nearly as much upside. Well, Headliner Nation, there you have it. I told you today's video was going to be pretty quick. Like, there is half the amount of names to talk about for running backs right now than there are for wide receivers. But do you know what that means? We're just going to have to discuss the late round running backs quite a bit, especially for those of you out there that are going with like a 0 running back strategy, or you're going with 1 wide receiver or 2 wide receivers super early and then waiting later on to draft your running backs. So we'll be dissecting that ADP in a show coming up very soon. But for now, Headliner Nation, I'm gonna call it there. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. If you haven't liked this video yet, I need you to hit that like button right now. And if you don't have the bell notifications on, I need you to also do that right now as well. Anytime we drop new content, you need to know about it right away. And YouTube is gonna recommend one of our last videos to you. If you haven't seen it yet, click on it right now. Peace out, Headliner Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.